In the world of money, power isn't always loud. It doesn't always wear a crown or shout from a presidential podium. Sometimes power moves quietly through algorithms, investments, and influence so deep that it operates in the shadows. Yet even presidents take notice. At the heart of this invisible empire stands a name most people have never heard: BlackRock. Now, this isn't a story about a bank, a government, or a flashy billionaire. This is the story of the most powerful company you've probably never seen. One that controls more wealth than any single nation on earth, except for the US and China. How did one firm become the silent ruler of the financial world? Let's find out. Like many great empires, BlackRock began small and unnoticed, born from necessity. It was 1988, and a man named Larry Fink, along with a handful of partners, decided to leave the chaotic world of Wall Street behind. They had a new mission: to use technology and data to manage financial risk better than anyone else. Back then, the financial markets were a circus of emotion and gut feelings. Traders shouting into phones, paper flying everywhere, pure chaos. But Fink believed that numbers could tell a much clearer story than all that noise ever could. He set out to build a system that would do something truly revolutionary, see the future of financial risk before it even happened. They called this system ALADDIN. ALADDIN wasn't some magical genie, but it might as well have been. It was a massive, powerful computer system designed to track and analyze millions of investments across the globe in real time. Imagine a machine that could see how a stock market crash in one country would send ripples through a pension fund in another, a system that could predict how a spike in oil prices might affect real estate in London or home loans in California. This wasn't just another piece of software. It was a crystal ball for the global financial system. Today, ALADDIN is the brain behind the scenes, managing over $20 trillion in assets. That's a number so huge it's hard to wrap your head around. It's more than the entire economic output of every country on Earth except for the United States and China. Banks use it, governments use it, even BlackRock's direct competitors have to rely on it. That's how deep its influence runs. It's the invisible infrastructure holding up the modern financial world. But BlackRock's ambition didn't stop with ALADDIN. It started acquiring more, not companies, but control. Through a strategy of investing small stakes in thousands upon thousands of firms, it quietly became one of the largest shareholders in nearly every major corporation on the planet. Think about the companies that define our daily lives: Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Coca-Cola, Tesla, ExxonMobil. BlackRock owns a significant piece of all of them. In total, the company directly manages over $10 trillion in assets. To put that into perspective, that's more than the entire accumulated wealth of Japan. And unlike governments, BlackRock doesn't answer to voters. It answers only to its clients and ultimately to itself. But here is the fascinating twist. BlackRock doesn't technically own these companies in the way you or I might own shares. It acts as a steward, managing the money of others. Pension funds for teachers and firefighters, university endowments, sovereign wealth funds, and wealthy individuals. It's the ultimate middleman, standing between the world's vast pools of money and the markets where that money gets put to work. Yet, this position as the world's largest asset manager gives it extraordinary power. Because when you manage someone's money, you also get to influence their decisions. BlackRock has voting rights in shareholder meetings. It helps guide corporate policies. It shapes corporate behavior on a global scale. And it does this not for a handful of firms, but for thousands. This means one company can quietly steer the direction of global capitalism, influencing which industries rise, which fall, and what values will shape our collective future. The story gets even more compelling. Remember the 2008 financial crisis? Banks were collapsing, global markets were in freefall, and governments were panicking. In that moment of absolute chaos, who did the US Federal Reserve turn to for help? Not another bank, not an academic, but a private company. They called BlackRock. It was hired to manage and clean up the toxic, worthless assets that had nearly brought down the entire global economy. Think about the implications of that. When the system itself failed, the system turned to BlackRock to fix it. This wasn't a one-time event. The same thing happened again in 2020 during the COVID-19 market crash. As panic gripped the world, the US government once again needed experts to stabilize the financial markets. And once again, they dialed BlackRock's number. Suddenly, the company that already managed trillions in private assets was now responsible for managing public money too. At that moment, BlackRock wasn't just a powerful player in the financial system. For all intents and purposes, it was the financial system. So what is the secret to BlackRock's silent, immense power? It boils down to three things: data, influence, and access. First, data. With ALADDIN, BlackRock has a God's eye view of global finance, seeing more than any single government or institution. It monitors risks across more than 30,000 investment portfolios, giving it real-time insight into the health of the entire global economy. Second, influence. By being a top shareholder in nearly every major company, BlackRock has a powerful voice in corporate boardrooms everywhere. It weighs in on everything from climate change initiatives to executive compensation. Its decisions create ripples that affect us all. And third, access. The line between Wall Street and Washington is blurry, and BlackRock lives in that gray area. Its executives move seamlessly between the two worlds. Former government officials join BlackRock, and former BlackRock leaders take up senior positions in government. It is a revolving door of power that ensures the company is never far from the rooms where the biggest decisions are made. But with power this vast, a critical question always emerges. Who watches the watcher? BlackRock's defenders argue that the company doesn't control the world. It simply invests the world's money responsibly, following the mandates of its clients. Its critics, however, warn that a company with this much concentrated reach can subtly shape economies, industries, and even ideologies without any democratic oversight. For example, when BlackRock's CEO, Larry Fink, writes his annual letter to CEOs and decides to shift investments away from fossil fuels and toward green energy, that single choice can redirect billions of dollars overnight. It can influence government policy and reshape entire global markets. That's not democracy. That's a new kind of power, algorithmic capitalism, where influence is wielded without accountability to the public. And yet, the most fascinating part of this whole story is how silent this power is. BlackRock doesn't run flashy Super Bowl ads. It doesn't sell products you can buy on a shelf. It doesn't need to. Every time you contribute to a pension fund, invest in an index fund, or even use a brokerage account, there's a very good chance your money is flowing through BlackRock's veins. You may not know the company, but it knows you. It knows your savings, your investments, and your financial future. To be clear, BlackRock insists it's a force for good. Larry Fink has publicly stated that the company's mission is to use capitalism as a tool to improve the world. But the question is, improvement for whom? When one company can influence how nations invest, how corporations behave, and how millions of people retire, it's worth asking, where does influence end and control begin? The truth is, BlackRock isn't necessarily evil, it's ruthlessly efficient. It is the logical end product of a system that prizes data, trust, and relentless growth above all else. In many ways, it's a mirror reflecting modern capitalism itself, vast, interconnected, and seemingly unstoppable. It doesn't need to conquer nations, it simply invests in them. It doesn't need to start wars, it profits from rebuilding after them. It doesn't need to elect leaders, it just advises them. In a world where money moves faster than laws can be written, the rise of a company like BlackRock was perhaps inevitable. Because when you give one company the power to manage the risk for everyone, eventually that company becomes the biggest risk of all. And maybe that's the real unspoken question of our time. When a single private company knows more about the global economy than the governments elected to run it, who truly rules the world? BlackRock's empire isn't built on land, armies, or borders. It's built on something far more powerful in the modern age: trust. The trust that our money is safe in its hands. But trust, when concentrated to this degree, becomes power. And that power, once centralized, becomes an invisible influence over everything, from the prices we pay at the grocery store, to the jobs available in our communities, to the government policies that shape our lives. So the next time you hear someone ask, who owns the world? Remember, the answer might not be a king, a country, or a famous billionaire. It might just be a company you've never seen, a company called BlackRock. Thanks for watching. If you found this dive into the world of shadow finance as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the hidden forces that shape our world. See you in the next one.